Profits Unlimited coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky. Yes, indeedy. Oh, my goodness. Here we are, Wednesday. Y'all believe that? February 18th already. My goodness. It's almost creeping in on Bill Day, which is the 20th for some and the 15th for some others. So some of them have already received their bundles of joy from WLS, and some have got it coming here in a couple days. But hey, glad you guys are with us today. Looking forward to a great show. Man, hard to believe we're going to 70 today here in the Ville, and we'll see how that all pans out. But today and tomorrow, and then we're going to have some rain, about an inch of rain, they're saying, come through. So we'll see if that all pans out tomorrow. Have to reach out to my boys at BAM and see what's going on. And women, that ain't fair to say boys, because you know what? They have quite a few women meteorologists on staff as well that help us tremendously too. So have to figure out what's going on with that tomorrow, what they think the severe weather threat's going to be for our area. It's probably um, we haven't gotten any notifications yet, so it's not too the what do you call it, the lookout or whatever. But anyway, so or that lookout. Hell, I guess it's about the same. About the same. Good morning, Seth. Appreciate you tuning in with us this morning, my friend. So glad to know we got one listener. Oh, and I'm not talking to myself. Yes, it is a good day to be looking down on dormant grass. Any day's a good day to be looking down on grass. So, as my buddy Charlie Hardesty says. So, yes, indeed. Always looking forward to the opportunity to be looking down on it versus looking up on it, because then that could be a completely different situation for all of us. But hey, appreciate you guys listening to us this morning, and appreciate you always listening here on Turf Stop Radio. And hopefully Logan's listening to us this morning. So uh, we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully all you guys are listening. I bring up Logan because he's a new client of ours that here and Profits Unlimited, and looking forward to the opportunity. Well, looky there. There is a Matt Griffin with BAM talking about not getting any posts, Daniel, and there you go. There it is, to discussing the severe weather potential for tomorrow. So we'll see what that's all about. Maybe we'll get somebody on maybe Friday with us. We'll see what that's looking like. Good morning, Corey. Hope everything's going well with your recovery, Corey, and your therapy. So hang in there, buddy. Just keep doing what they're asking you to do, and I'm sure you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Man, I tell you what, I waited way too long to get my hip done. I know that, but yeah. So I got news back on my semi-annual doctor visit the other day. So I think I'm still alive. They told me I was doing all right. So we'll see how that goes. They actually called me yesterday while I was out with a really good friend of mine, Chris Kelty. He actually came over and we went out and went to Chili's, had a little lunch. Man, I had the best chicken sandwich over there the other day. It was really, really good. It was really good. And I ain't gonna lie, I don't know what they do with it or how they do it, but pretty good sandwich. So, but anyways, uh, let's see. Let's see. Corey said, not so well. They're putting me back down on the 17th. Spring rush is over before it begins. So good luck with that, man. I hope that goes well for you, Corey. So I know you've been putting in the effort. I know he's been putting in the effort. So hopefully that gets turned around. So we'll all say a little prayer for Corey. If you guys believe in divine intervention out there, if you don't, that's okay too. But if you do, a little divine intervention is always nice, to say the least. So we'll certainly hope for the best for you, Corey. And in the meantime, maybe you see some really good progress. So it's about a month. So I guess the next month they'll be working on you and seeing what they can do for you. So yeah, Corey said prayers are welcome. So there we go. We give you that shout out to say the least. So what are you guys into today? Man, I know around here we got a little bit of something going, not a whole lot this week. We got actually today we're moving a little salt around, trying to make some room for some incoming mulch potentially. And but we're like supposed to get to the 70 degrees today, 70 tomorrow, and then that you know go through and then bring our temperatures down for a few days. We'll see. But yeah, this week has been a decent little week for us. Hadn't, like I said, hadn't done a whole lot. More of just prep work, you know, getting our spreaders ready. When I say spreaders, our lawn spreaders ready, and double checking inventory on our herbicides and lawn markers and application sheets and all that. Doing a little sanding and a little painting. Just trying to make things look A1 as we go out. And image is a big thing. I mean, that's something. I mean, we're not talking about it necessarily today, other just now because it popped in my mind. But I mean that's why we do we each and every year we'll take and sand our anything down and repaint it and have it looking good. So when we're going out there and we're out there in the customer's eye, we want to look good. And I think that's a big thing that we need to think about because it really does boil down to you know the image you reflect is the income you can expect, and that's really what it amounts to. And I know a lot of you guys are doing a little bit of that type of work now, getting things ready for spring. Corey, matter of fact, just sent me a text and said he's heading to clean up his storage unit. So yeah, and it's crazy, what you got left to do after, because you generally put your stuff away good, and but then here we go. Uh, Mike says, yeah, he's working on a shirt order now. So, yeah, it is. It's that time of the year where you're thinking about, you know, image and making sure your trailers look good, your trucks look good, your equipment. No reason that your equipment's not power washed and ready to rock and roll and looking good. And ooh, that's interesting, Mike. It'd be cool to see. So, Mike said he's actually worked on and changed his logo up a little bit over the winter. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we little rebranding there. So yeah, looks nice. Yeah, looks nice, man. Sent it in, and what prompted the change? I guess. Well, so what? Wait, you can text me that a little bit. But what? Yeah, well, remind me tomorrow night in the Profit Circle, Mike. We got that. We'll take and talk about that a little bit. Let's see. Seth says they're putting some freehand today in landscape beds and avoiding some dog do at the same time. Oh my God. He says in business you have to adapt and overstep. True that, my friend. It's funny, we were just talking about that, Seth, here yesterday about, starting out, getting that pre-emerge and the beds out. Uh, Probably going to start on that next week for sure, and see, just see what's going on. So, Mike said, yeah, he was just looking to clean his logo up a little bit and make it more appealing on his shirts. Yeah, that does come into play for sure, Mike. So glad you're thinking like that, and it's always good to have a very professional image, for each and every one of us. It's something that we can constantly work on. Each and every one of us is all the little things, kind of like getting things cleaned up and getting things painted and thinking about your logo and it's like nothing worse than not just a spring of the year, but I mean I know that's what we're talking about is spring, but the reality of it is, I mean, a lot of us are pretty close to the kickoff of our season, you know. And I know it's different for everybody, but for you guys that are treating lawns, some of you probably already started. I know for us in our market, we're going to start next week with our granular pre-emergent. Probably Tuesday or Wednesday of next week will be our start date on that. And then, then within a few weeks, we'll be rolling into our first rounds on our visits on our contracts for mowing. Even though we don't wait till the grass gets 10 inches high or 8 inches high to show up the first time on our contracted accounts. We'll talk more about that. But the reality of it is there's a lot of prep work going in, and because one of the bad things about I'm just going to say our industry. It's a lot of industries, but you go from not doing anything hardly in some cases to running, and then I mean that's the really what the way it goes, and you're from really in a laid back mode, especially if you weren't doing snow this year, you know, to now spring breaks and you're wide open and your phone's ringing and depending on the size of your company, maybe you're the person that has to answer the phone, return the phone call, sell the jobs, do the work. So you go from a pretty relaxed atmosphere to hold on, and buckle up, buttercup kind of thing. Because that is the reality of it. I mean, technically, I guess we got what close to well, should be around what 30 days probably till spring, March 20th. So we're creeping in on less than a month or right on a month for spring to be here, and I know that's a target date for a lot of people to start. Hey, this is where we're going to start doing this, or this. So now's the time to be lining that out and getting everything ready. Big shout out to Stephen and Sigma Organics. Um, he's down at an educational show right now down in central Kentucky, down in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. University of Kentucky's got their educational short course going on, so he's down there. So may or may not be tuned in. They might be about on time for a break, and he might be busy doing his um, show floor thing. So what do they call that? Trade show. Yeah, the trade show. So, but I want to give Mike a big shout out for getting our pre-emergent delivered yesterday, man. We appreciate you, and that just-in-time delivery as always. So, but great guys to work with. That's what we're doing around here. Just getting things ready, getting ready to get the season kicked off real good, and that's what we're into. We got to come back. We're going to take a short break. Mike said he had a pleasure of meeting Stephen in person last week down in Bowling Green at a trade show. So
Nice.
said he's a wealth of knowledge.
Hmm.
Stephen is good at what he does, and he doesn't make you feel stupid when he tells you something.
Yeah.
And that's a talent. That's on the lines of what we're going to talk a little bit about today here on Profit Time. But that's a talent to be able to talk to somebody and not make them feel like you're belittling them. That's probably the right word.
Or just talking over them,
Or
or
talking over them, or
sometimes even within the industry, you can talk to like a chemical sales rep and a spray guy, like just because the spray guy sprays and has maybe even been doing it for a while, that chemical rep knows a lot of stuff that that spray guy doesn't, and they know a lot of science and words that, could go right over the head. So being
yeah,
able to communicate with the person you're trying to communicate with, pass information to, is extremely important, not just
absolutely,
for selling them product, but how can I get this person to get like how can they communicate with me so I know their needs, and then we can have a good relationship. They know what products to buy because I've told them that this and that, so
right.
I think, and that kind of goes back to like the contractor to commercial or residential property owner kind of, speaking to
Yeah,
their level as well.
that's right. Just that's right. It's I got a thing here that Holly gave me when she was gosh, 6 years old maybe at the most. I don't know, and it's still hanging here on the side of the file cabinet. And we talk about it a lot, and I've talked to you guys about it, but is just speaking somebody's language, basically. It's easy to go above and beyond to try to impress somebody with what you know, but when you lose them in that transition, you haven't accomplished anything, so. Um, and speaking of accomplishing some things, a week from today, we're going to be at one of the largest open houses in the country that I've ever attended. Uh, as far as number of contractors at a dealer open house, and this is going to be in Hobstadt, Indiana. Great dealer there, Scotty's Lawn Equipment. It's their 34th annual Pro Cutter University, they call it. And I've been lucky enough to be part of that for a lot of years. They've invited us back, and we certainly do appreciate that. And looking forward to that. So that'll be a week from today. Um, Maybe an opportunity to where we can maybe do a little live Turfs Up radio down there. We'll see how
Yeah.
that goes. And just some segments anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And look forward to doing that. But Katie's actually going to do one of our presentations on scripts in your business. And I'm going to talk about snow and ice management corrections to your business after a year like this year. So looking forward to that. And hopefully some of you guys listening to us are in that market and we'll be there. So, but I know they always have a great turnout. So Smoking Joe says he's out putting a little rock out today. So told him be careful with that hand. That hand's just now coming around, and I get it though, man. You got to do, you got to do what you got to do, to get it rocking and rolling. And speaking of that, good thing, phones ringing a little bit, and Katie said it's mostly her. We're having a little phone issues. No, I know right now it is, but our Ring app that we use, they're trying to get our voicemail set back up properly. They had a, a a crash, if you will. So the company that handles that for our phone systems for us is getting that squared away, and Katie's about to pull her hair out with them trying to get it squared away. Technology's wonderful. It is, but when it's not working the way it's supposed to, it's like, oh my gosh, let's just do it the easy way, right? But you know, but most of the time, it functions the way it's supposed to. So, but I'm sure they'll get it worked out. Katie will have them get it worked out. That's the thing. Say, they Katie's already went to the next level to see about getting some help that can get it fixed within the next very timely manner. Because we spend money to make our phone ring, and now our phone's ringing, and people can't leave a message if they call us after hours, or it's not going to the right extension. So we'll see how that goes. The trials and tribulations of running a business, but then it just boils down to having a great office manager like Katie, who stays on top of it for real. And I'm not just saying it because she's sitting here. Uh, she just has everybody do their job. This is what it amounts to. So doing that is what she's doing. So I'm sure our phones will be up and rolling here pretty soon. They are ringing, so that's the good thing. You just got to answer. Boo. Boo. Oh gosh, surely we're joking. Y'all understand that. But we love when our phone rings. Matter of fact, going to talk a little bit about that, and that is, it's that time of the year. Your phone is starting to ring, and whether you're doing fert and weed or mowing or landscape. I mean, we've had some of all of it come in through either our website or phone or whatever it may be. But I guess the question really boils down to, you know, are you ready? Are you ready for those leads to start coming in? Are you doing anything to try to generate some leads? I know there's a whole lot of social media talk going on right now about, hey, what should I be doing? Should I do door hangers? Should I do flyers? Should I do direct mail? The answer is do some of all of it, man. Because what I've found in my 47 years of experience is different types of customers, different demographics of customers will respond to different types and formats of marketing. It's kind of like you. I mean, the same thing doesn't motivate you over and over and over again. Or I think if you're honest with yourself, you say it doesn't. You know, I mean, some people, respond to paper. Some people respond to electronics and digital. Some people respond to, damn, anybody know anybody? I can't get anybody to call me back. So there's lots of different things that we as business owners have to think about. And the reality of it is for somebody to say, yeah, well, man, that's dead. That's, you shouldn't do that. You know, don't fall into that trap. It might be dead for them because they're shallow minded, you know, or maybe their customer base isn't broad enough or their service offering isn't diversified enough to have the demand of different formats. Or does that make sense, Daniel?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, certain avenues, certain filter channels, whatever, are good for certain things, certain people at certain times. And also, maybe you're just not very good at putting a message out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole lot of
I mean,
things that go into a good message.
we've seen flyers that you've brought in here from just a couple of years now, not even going back to back in the day ones, but just a couple of years now that, I mean, it looks like someone's kid did it in art class.
Yeah,
It's like put some time and effort into that and you'll actually get some return on it. If
yeah,
because like you said, it's image. It's not just what your trucks and trailers and shirts and people look like, it's what your advertising looks like, what you're trying to lure somebody in with, right? Like if you're a fisherman, what are you going to use? You're going
yeah.
to use something that looks nice and shiny.
You're going to use some good bait
Yeah, get the
and
right bait out there.
put the right bait out there. My goodness, and that bait doesn't have to always be will meet or beat your competitor's price. I mean, unfortunately, that's what a lot of people fish with in our industry. And there's a lot of people that say that's the best way to do it. But there's also a lot of people out there that'll tell you that's not maybe the best way to fish. It depends on what you're trying to catch. You know, you trying to catch long term loyalty, or you trying to catch a quick buck in return, and hopefully, hey man, hopefully maybe they'll stick. They'll be like a spitball, right? You throw it at the wall and it sticks for a while. Or what are you trying to catch? That's what you got to ask yourself, and that's how you can come up with the answer of, hey, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? And how many of something are we going to do? And I mean, that's really not what my conversation is going to be about today. So we're not going to go any further down that marketing road, but or too far down it. But that's why, people say, well, hey, it's all digital now, or it's all, paper's an old way of doing things. And uh, still there's people out there that like getting that flyer, like getting that door hanger, or, appreciate the effort that goes into it rather than just, hey, I'm going to do this on social media. And I'm not, and again, hear me saying that we're very diversified at WLS on what we do. I mean, we spend a few dollars on a lot of different types of marketing and advertising, and uh, and it's because we go after and want to attract different types of clientele for different types of service that we offer. So we're going after a landscape lighting client, for an example, differently than we're going after a fertilization weed control client. Although we may be encouraged to go the same demographic, okay, as far as maybe zip code, let's call it that, okay, as a search way, but because generally within certain zip codes we have certain family styles, we have certain income ranges, we have certain home values, those kind of things that we got to think about, and and a lot of times that's more of a direct marketing campaign, less of that shotgun approach, if you will. And that may or may not be a good example, but that's just an easy way to think about it. You shoot a shotgun, boom, it goes out all over the place, right? Well, you shoot a 22 and you got one very directive target with that bullet. And that's what we got to think about with our marketing and advertising is, sometimes it is a shotgun approach, that makes it very successful, but sometimes it's a very direct target that we're going after. And there's something that we're not getting into today, but it's called the seven gotchas. Um, I've actually got a presentation called the seven gotchas of your marketing program. And so there's just so many things that get involved in good, timing and call to actions and service offerings and demographics. It's if there was just one thing you had to worry about, it'd be easy, wouldn't it, Daniel?
Mm-hmm.
It'd be easy if you just said, "Hey, don't advertise until March the 17th at 4 a.m." And you want that 4 a.m. to 7 a.m. landing in that email because that's going to be their most recent, and that's what they're going to see first. And if it was just one thing we had to target, it would be so easy. But it's multiple things that we need to target. And that's where you either understand that yourself and you learn how to do that targeting, and or you find somebody that can help you do that targeting. If you need help with social media targeting or whatnot and keeping your social page up, and your social media is active, and but you don't have the time, and or you don't want to spend the time on that, you want to spend your time doing what you're good at, then hey, it's something Katie can help you out with. Reach out to Katie here. She'll be happy to help you with it. She helps quite a few people with that. So the point is, you do what you're good at. Let somebody do what they're good at, but know that hey, attrition alone, and we'll leave it at that because we're not, like I said, turning this into a marketing show today. But attrition alone uh, fills the need of having to do marketing and advertising. Customer, sooner or later, you're going to have some customers that need to be replaced for whatever reason that may be. And there's a zillion reasons on what that looks like. So hopefully your retention rate's pretty good. Be curious to know how it is for you guys. Anybody listening? Shoot me a text. Let me know. 502-550-8307. For our new listeners, that's 502-550-8307. How's that retention rate And you may say, well, it's too early. I don't know. Regardless of the market you're in, you need to know. You need to know by now. I mean, we're at the end of February. Even if you're not starting mowing till April, you know, you need to know now, who's on, who's not on, and have a really good handle of what that database looks like for you that you're going to be servicing this year, because that's how you can plan the rest of everything you're going to do, right? I mean, if you know that, hey, let's just say you're doing fertilization and weed control. If you know that, hey, I've retained 85% of my customer base, well, hey, I need to get 15% just to get back to where I was. So how am I going to gain those 15% just to get me back, even if I don't want any substantial growth? Even if I was comfortable servicing, those 100 or those 200 or those 500 or those 10,000, the numbers don't really matter because the numbers are going to vary based on each and every one of our companies. What matters is we know, hey, what's our retention rate? What do we have to do to get back to where we were, and where do we want to go from that point forward? In other words, what percentage of growth are we looking at? Do we want to hey, let's just go about a 7 to 10% growth, which may be really good for a bigger company? Or do you want to say, hey, I'm looking for double the growth, which is realistic for a smaller company that's going from 20 accounts to 40 accounts or 40 to 80? The bigger your company gets, the harder those numbers get. And they're achievable all the way around. Smoking Joe said he's sitting pretty good right now. He's on about a 90% retention rate. So, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that with us, Joe. And, and for us, different services, we'll have more customer carousel for different services. In other words, people that more loyal for one service versus another service, more because some of the services are more cost driven versus value driven, And you can believe that or not, but that's the reality of it. I mean, you say, oh no, everybody loves me. They don't worry what I charge. Well, when you get over 20 accounts or 40 accounts or 100 accounts, you're going to have some diversification in your customer base. I think that's a fair statement. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you think? I mean, I think it's a fair statement. You're going to have some diversification of mindset within your customer base, and your retention rates are going to be different, or ours always have been. I can honestly say we've never had, hey, a 97% retention rate across the board, or 80% retention rate across the board. It's like I think, and Katie, you're Daniel, because y'all see these more than I do, coming in onesies, but um, I would think we have a higher percent of turnover in our database with our fert and weed program,
I think would that be true? Yeah.
than anything else we do.
Yeah.
But that's because a lot of that is cost driven. The demographics of who we go after for fert and weed are different than the demographics we go after for mowing. Certainly different than landscaping or landscape lighting. Because somebody can afford to spend, say $60 an application 8 times a year. That's less than a $500 input into their lawn. But that same person that can afford that may not be able to spend $3,000 on mowing or $5,000 on lights.
Yeah.
So it's different, and you got to be willing to understand that. And you got to be willing to accept that. So, what's your input on that, Daniel? I know you got
I think
something.
it would be interesting too to know and see segmented uh retention rates. Like my retention rate after 1 year is
Yes.
this percentage. If I keep them for, let's say, 2 years, if they go through 2 seasons with me, then I know that my retention rate is X percent, and that customer, if once they hit 2 years, they're going to stay an average of 7 or 10 or whatever.
Yes.
It's like some people are going to go with you, not maybe because their expectations were set at a different level, or they just thought they could afford it and they can, or they did find somebody to do it cheaper, after that, but they get through that first year and then that second year, like all that kind of stuff definitely goes into, like the, what is it called? The customer,
The customer lifespan,
the lifespan,
customer acquisition cost.
yeah, acquisition costs, things like that.
Yeah, those are things you think about from that standpoint. And that's one reason that we do track, and I would suggest you guys tracking what the average lifespan of your customers are. And if you were listening to Daniel earlier on his show, he was talking about lifespan, but different life. He was talking about your individual lifespan. We're talking about how long does a customer generally stay with you, and what's that look like for you and your company. Across full service accounts would probably be a different lifespan. Fred brings up a really good point here. He said commercially they're at 100% renewal. And residentially, they're at 62% currently, but they're more coming in daily. And they'll end up probably around 95% overall. And that's just it. The point is, and the reason I wanted to bring it up today is I want you guys thinking about that. That, to say, hey, well, I don't know yet. I know there's always going to be those I don't know yet for sure. But that's something that you can implement too to help yourself. And we did this as our company began to grow many years ago. We changed our service agreement to where it was not an annual renewal. I mean, we didn't have to redo contracts every year, every 2 years, or every 3 years, or whatever that contract term was, because it got to be a pain in the brain, So our current service contracts, and now most states you can do this, some states you can't. So you need to check with your legal advisor on that. But the reality of it is when we start servicing a number of accounts, and we're not huge by any stretch of the imagination, but when you do start servicing quite a few accounts, and let's just call it, I don't know, 100, more than 100. I mean, I don't know what the right answer is for everybody. There's not a right answer for everybody. But whatever you consider, and for me, when we made the transition, it was around 70 accounts that we stopped writing annual service contracts. Everything we wrote was an ongoing contract. So if somebody wanted to cancel, and that was actually my brother's idea, because that's what he one of his responsibilities was our renewals. So that's something that we thought about, like, how can we eliminate all this wasted time every year of 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 sending out, God, these two. God, I thought Katie was freaking out. But that's something that we started, many, many years ago, was just going with an ongoing service agreement to where we don't have to spend the time every year to check in with each individual customer if they're coming back or not. We do reach out what 3 times I think it is between January and start date with them. One in the form of a prepay, and then the others is, hey, our season's getting ready to start, and then we have an email that goes out and says, hey, we're starting our rounds next week, kind of thing, for our Mo customers. So we give them multiple reminders of, hey, here we come, but we don't have to redo those contracts every year. And also the verbiage within our contract then is pretty cool in the fact that if there's a change in that service fee from year to year, they're notified by a certain date, of what that fee is. So we're not just showing up at a higher price and them not knowing it. So there's ways to again build your business model around making your life easier and making your customers' life easier. And let me say this too: you will always have a few people that say, when you do show up, well, I didn't renew, and you've already reached out to them 3 times. You told them you were coming, and then a week before you're there, you told them you were coming, and they say, well, I didn't never call back. Well, Miss Smith, you've been a customer for 5 years, and you didn't call us. You went on our renewals within our service agreement that you signed with us. This is exactly why we do what we do. Either party can cancel, but we just need to know before we get there. And then you got to make that choice if you're going to just say, okay, pull off and leave it alone, or what are you going to do and what's your contract say you're going to do for, what's the mandatory cancellation? Is it 30 days? Is it 60 days? Is it service will continue for 30 days at the agreed rate, or whatever the verbiage is within your contract? We're not going to talk about that today, but getting back to the retention side, as your company grows, you're constantly working on retention. To Daniel's point, what's that retention look like for somebody that's been a customer longer than 2 years or longer than 3 years? Because what we've found over the years too is, when somebody finds you and they like you, they're normally good for a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years. It's about that 5th year when they start thinking, they forget about what it was like to have somebody that wasn't showing up, that wasn't the quality wasn't as good. They forgot how good your quality is because they've been used to it now for 4 or 5 years. And if you're going to have some jumping going on, sometimes it's generally going to take place in that 4 or 5, 6 year time frame. And that's where y'all have heard me talk about it again. When you do lose a client, unless it was a mutual agreement of I hate you and you hate me, please don't ever call us and we'll never call you. Use that customer as a lead to reach out to. And because before we started making our cancellations an active lead for our company, we found that a lot of people were resistant to call us back, and that's one day that epiphany finally set in for us after, we were hearing it that, I didn't know if I could call y'all back or not if y'all put me back on. We're like, sure. Because what we find is when somebody leaves and then they come back, a lot of times they're much more loyal, for a longer period of time. And that's when you've got a customer, locked in for a significant number of years. Now, I know some of you guys don't have the years in business that have seen that take place, but that's what I want you to hear in this message is, you know, you sell an account, right? Whether it's residential or commercial. Let's just talk residential for a second. You sell that residential account. Hopefully they didn't hire you for price, because if they did, they're going to be the first to go. Okay, they will be the first to go. They hire you for price, they fire you for price. All right. So if you've gotten past the being the best price option, and hopefully then they see that, hey, yeah, these guys show up, they do what they say. If I call them, they call me back. If I send them an email or a text, they respond. Those are all the little things that help you create a better retention rate. Like I said, somewhere between 4, 5, 6 years somebody's been with you is when they forget what it was like a little bit sometimes. They're getting a little bit complacent with your good service, your good response time, all those things that they really like about you. Then all of a sudden they start thinking about price potentially. And that's where some of your retention can fall off. To Daniel's point, what's that look like after you've had somebody a while? But what we found is if they do leave, reach out to them, about 2 months into mowing season, let's say, because, our first 8 to 10 weeks is the hardest part of the season to get through. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It's the scheduling, it's the rain, it's just everything of that startup and that first 8 to 10 weeks of the season. So it's hard for that new company too. It's not only hard for you, it's hard for the company that your customer went with. So that's where you want to reach out to them and say, hey, Miss Smith, this is Wayne. Just wanted to see if everything was going okay with your new service. Give them the courtesy of that phone call. Well, actually, Wayne, it's really not. They're not showing up like you guys were. They're not nearly as dependable. The quality of the work, you ought to see, they're leaving clumps of grass and they got turn marks on my yard. And you're thinking, yeah, you ought to see some of ours. We've had a lot of rain, but the reality of it is you're just reaching out. You're fishing, right? We used that analogy early. You're fishing for a problem that they're having, but you're not saying, are you having problems? You're just saying, hey, I just want to make sure everything's going okay with the company you hired. It's a very professional way to reach out and let them tell you, yes, everything's going fine, or no, it's not, or you're giving them an opportunity to return back to you. So that's where retention alone, you don't just look at a retention rate. Say, hey, okay, what's my retention rate of the ones I've lost? Who can I potentially bring back? Who do I want to bring back? And what's that look like? So, hey, hope that helps. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Yeah. So, getting back to that retention rate issue, any of you guys listening to us, whether you're listening to us live today or on the podcast version of this when Daniel gets it loaded up here in a few minutes, and you're listening to it a day from now, a week from now, a year from now, the reality of it is don't just be satisfied with the results of seasonality of retention. you know, Look at it from the standpoint of, okay, who do we want to invite back? Who do we don't want to invite back? And know, well, because it's okay to go after those people. Because what do you have with those people that have fired you? They changed. They've changed for a reason. But hey, are you doing an evaluation sheet? Are you having them? Are you sending them both digital and or paper to say, hey, we'd love your feedback on why you changed? Because a lot of times, if you look at statistics on that, people a lot of times will say cost when cost is really not the issue. I'm not making that up. Okay, look that up. Um, it's used as an excuse a lot of times, But the reality of it is, the largest percentage of cancellations are due to, I'm trying to think of the word that is used, but it basically it's your ability and willingness to listen to a particular problem that somebody may have. So, maybe it's, hey, maybe you're showing up too early, too late. Uh, the back gate's not getting locked. These are all things that if you're doing evaluations with your customers and not just the ones that are leaving, but with the ones that are staying, you can micromanage a crew. So now if it's just you, you're micromanaging yourself. And if you've got more than one crew, you can micromanage additional crews professionally. If you've got several evals that come back, to you and that say, hey, they don't shut the gate or they're not blowing my back patio off, but overall, they're doing a pretty good job. It gives you an opportunity to micromanage the crew a little bit and say, hey, we need you to do this differently. We're having some issues with gates getting closed or patios or downspouts or whatever it is. I mean, turn marks, fill in the blank. It could be a zillion things, but your customer's going to appreciate the fact that you're giving them the opportunity. And what I want you to do is tune it out of your mind by saying, when I say tune it out of your mind, let me clarify that. Tune it out of your mind that if there was a problem, they would tell you, because that is the furthest thing from the truth that you will ever believe. Most people, think of yourself. You have a problem, you don't say anything. You have a problem, you don't say anything. You have a problem, you don't say anything. And finally, you just change of whatever it is, whether it's fill in the blank. It could be anything, So don't just assume that no news is good news, because that's not it. What we found over the course of time is by utilizing evaluation sheets, both digitally and paper, that we get feedback that we otherwise were never going to get. And we're not just looking for, hey, y'all the greatest thing since sliced bread. Yeah, we like that. But what we really want to find out is the little things that maybe we're not doing that a customer is expecting to get done that we can correct before they become a statistic on our retention rate or a retarget for a customer. So lots of little things we can do to increase retention rate, a lot of things we can do to get some of those people back. But it's up to you if you want to run your business as a business or if you just want to run a dog and pony show. There's plenty of room for dog and pony shows out there. Matter of fact, the largest percentage of our industry, I'm going to say it, that I don't mean it in a bad way, it's just a reality. The largest percentage of our industry are dog and pony shows. But it's because we don't know what we don't know about the business side of our business. So take the time, take the effort to understand why you may be struggling and why you're not seeing the results that you want and how you can change some little things. And that's what we're going to talk about Friday on my show, is the little things that we can do to answer the question of, hey, why are we struggling? Or maybe you're not struggling, but hey, why are we not seeing the results that we want to see on a regular basis? So appreciate y'all's time. As always, I appreciate all the input, all the text from you guys. Look forward to you guys joining us tomorrow night in the Profit Circle. Daniel, one more time real quick on how they can get in with us, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you can either go to patreon.com/the Profit Circle or go to our Facebook page at Profits Unlimited on the Zoom link there.
It's easy as that. So we look forward to seeing you guys. Hop in there with us tomorrow night. Let us know what you think and have a great day. And remember, profit is not a dirty word. We'll see you next time.